lot of the work I do involves fruit trees, and many of my clients like fruit trees, but they don't really understand the spacing required to allow for the fruit trees to grow appropriately and end up with a balanced amount of canopy. So what we have here is we've got a nectarine, we've got a cherry, we've got a plum, and over there's an older apple. The apple is much older, and somebody decided to come in and go 1, 2, 3. And to make it even more complex, there's a lemon kind of jammed back in here in the spot where it doesn't get enough sun. Somebody wanted some grapes, and way in the back over here, there's a persimmon tree. Now everything is good for right now because everything is still quite small. But what these people did not really project is how big these trees are going to get. So if they're going to keep all 4 of these trees, the lemon and the persimmon, it is going to require quite a bit of maintenance. These trees have got to be compacted, they've got to be small enough, because there just isn't room for them, or they've got to make some decisions to get rid of something. They don't want to lose anything, so the first thing I'm going to do here is deal with this apple. Apple trees are putting on a lot of fruit right now, and because of the way this tree was pruned, or lack of pruning, it is growing quite heavy. A lot of the branches are ready to break. They're just loaded down with apples, and you can see here's where a branch broke last year. At one point you can see where this tree was cut back really hard, and it resulted in 3, 4 new sprouts, and that's what's happening throughout the whole tree. It was cut back hard and then allowed to just grow big. Once you start a hard pruning process, it's an annual deal. You've got to get in there and maintain this tree at the size that you need to keep it. Unfortunately, because this tree is so overwhelming right now, in order to salvage the tree, we're going to lose most of the apples. Look at this. Right here, there's about a dozen apples in the space for about 2. Look at that grouping right there. There's another dozen apples. There's another dozen over here. Throughout the whole tree. The tree requires some fruit thinning, but it's at the point where branches are starting to break. So I'm going to make the decision to do some hard pruning and hope for the best. So what I'm doing here is pruning this tree at the wrong time of the year to prevent it from breaking. And you can see that I'm wasting hundreds and hundreds of apples, not to mention all the apples I cut off on these incredibly heavy low branches that are starting to break. So the question becomes, save the tree or get the apples. In this case, I left enough apples up here so that the tree will still bear some fruit. Still needs a little bit of thinning some of these clusters, but next year we got to cut this tree back moderately hard. I wouldn't cut it as hard as it was done down here, but I'd cut it about 2 feet up above it, harsh all the way over. And that should be done at the best time of the year is when the tree is dormant and devoid of leaves, so that when it does sprout out and it does fill out for the springtime growth and the development of fruit, that you're not developing fruit in areas that shouldn't be there. So it's the best we can do. Cherry trees don't require a whole lot, but I have to tip it back from the building a little bit. This plum tree over here is going to self-destruct if it gets a heavy crop. It doesn't look too bad right now. You can see way up the very top there's a lot of plums, and some of these branches are already starting to bend over with the weight of the plums. You can see that this branch here is just loaded, and that branch right there is way loaded. And up in the top of the tree, they're still straight up and down, but as soon as these plums get a little bit bigger, they're going to start bending over, and same thing's going to happen. So I'm going to take a few cuts here to kind of minimize the fruit on this tree. And the sad part about it is the fruit is so high on this tree that these people won't harvest it anyway. So I removed about 50 pounds of little baby apples, and every one of those branches has apples on them too. 50 pounds of baby apples would have turned into 200 to 300 pounds of bigger apples that would have caused the tree to self-destruct. So don't let your trees go too big if you're trying to contain fruit weight problems.